But I mean, I'm only 48 years old. I'm still pretty young, and I've been doing it for 30 years.
Doing it for 30 years on the fragile ice of the far north, where the cold can snatch life away in an instant, one name became a legend: Hugh Rowland, Polar Bear. He wasn't a Hollywood star but a real man behind the wheel, tough, stubborn, and unyielding in the face of nature's brutality. He didn't act, he lived on every icy road with all his grit and flesh. But then, one day, that legend vanished. So, what really happened to Hugh Rowland? This isn't just the story of a truck driver, it's an emotional journey of a man forced to stand at the crossroads of life and fame. Born in 1957 in Canada, in a small town nestled among vast pine forests and lakes that froze solid in winter, where snow blanketed rooftops nearly year-round, Hugh Rowland grew up with a cold as his constant companion. From a young age, Hugh was drawn to trucks, the roar of their engines, the sharp scent of diesel fuel, and the sense of freedom behind the wheel. He would often tag along with his father on short trips, perched in a passenger seat of an old Peterbilt, listening to tales of the ice roads in northern Canada, places where the ice could crack at any moment, where every journey was a battle with death itself. "My father once told me, if you want to live on the ice, you have to learn to listen to it," Hugh later recalled. While other kids dreamed of stage lights or distant adventures, young Hugh had a simpler dream: to take the wheel of his father's truck and navigate the routes where only ice, snow, and sheer grit could endure. In the place where he grew up, there was no room for weakness. People learned to come of age by facing nature head-on, not to conquer it, but to survive within it. The endless winter days, the white nights devoid of streetlights, and the biting whine of an engine that refused to start all became Hugh's earliest lessons. No classrooms, no teachers, just the road, the truck, and raw determination. Since the age of 15, he had been driving timber trucks through deep forests, gambling with his life in exchange for a few meager wages. By the age of 20, he had already become the owner of his first small fleet of trucks, and at 30, people began to speak of him as a mad driver, one who dared to drive through the night in -40-degree temperatures just to make a delivery on time. No one knew whether he did it for his clients, for his reputation, or simply because he didn't know what fear was. Hugh had built a name for himself in the ice road trucking industry. He wasn't just a driver, he was a living legend. His fellow drivers called him the Polar Bear, not just because of his towering frame, over 6 feet 3 inches and nearly 120 kilograms, but also because of his astonishing endurance. "You could drive for 18 hours straight without blinking," said a former colleague. The fateful day came in 2006 when a producer from Original Productions was searching for real truckers to film a new reality TV show. It didn't take long for them to hear the name Hugh Rowland, not because he sought them out, but because everyone in the frozen north already knew who he was. At first, Hugh wasn't interested. "I thought it was just some Hollywood guys pulling a joke," he recalled in On Thin Ice. "Who'd want to watch me driving across ice?" But after being convinced that the show would honor the work he did, Hugh agreed to join. On June 17, 2007, Ice Road Truckers premiered, and Hugh's life changed forever. From driver to legend, right from the very first episodes, Hugh became the standout. He was nothing like the others. While some drivers were still shy in front of the camera, he spoke bluntly, saying exactly what was on his mind. Debuting in a blazing red Kenworth W900, driving across Great Slave Lake to deliver cargo to the Diavik Diamond Mine, the image of him behind the wheel, thick beard frosted with snow, sharp eyes cutting through the fogged windshield, quickly won over the audience. "I don't drive to show off, I drive to survive," he yelled, laughed loudly, swore, argued, and drove like tomorrow might never come. The combination of raw grit and rebellious personality made him TV gold, but more than that, Hugh brought something few in the entertainment world could deliver: authenticity. The nickname, Polar Bear, was no longer just a phrase within the trucking world, it became his global brand. People watched him drive across cracking ice lakes, along slippery cliff edges, through snowstorms that seemed to erase the very presence of humanity, and they believed in him, not an actor, not a stuntman. Hugh Rowland was real. Fame brought money. Celebrity net worth estimated Hugh's fortune at $2 million in 2014, and a level of recognition he had never imagined. He was invited to trucking conferences, appeared on magazine covers like Overdrive, August 2008, and even received fan mail from around the world. But behind the epic footage, the behind-the-scenes reality of ice road truckers wasn't always so simple. The more famous he became, the heavier the invisible weight Hugh carried on his shoulders, maintaining his image, his performance, and his unique edge under the scrutiny of millions of eyes. He was no longer just the rugged trucker from the far north. Hugh had become a reality TV star, a symbol shaped by the expectations of viewers and the demands of the production crew. That pressure seeped into every trip, every relationship, every thought. When the camera started rolling, the people around him were no longer teammates, they became accidental actors, each one trying to steal the spotlight. In an interview with YouTuber Joshua Nanny, Hugh shared, "When the cameras showed up, all my guys thought they were Hollywood superstars. I had to fire them all and hire new ones. They forgot we're here to drive, not to act." And then, what once was a passion, the icy road journeys, gradually became a burden. Hugh was no longer battling sub-zero temperatures, but the pressure to succeed, the loneliness, and the doubt from those who once believed in him. "People only see me on TV," he once said in a rare interview. "They don't see me passing out in the truck. They don't see me bleeding from the cold. They don't see me losing friends because of those roads." Behind the glare of the cameras was a man quietly worn down, locked in a battle with his own shadow, both a legend and a prisoner of fame. No one can remain an untouchable icon forever, even the polar bear. Top of the food chain can be wounded, hunted, and driven from his territory. It was the first sign that beneath the surface of success, a tiny fracture had begun to spread. As the bright lights of the stage began to fade, a fateful accident struck, not only changing Hugh Rowland's life forever but also exposing the truths hidden behind the lens. Tragedy, betrayal, and the fateful accident. August 3, 2014, Alberta, Canada. The sky was a pale, cloudless blue. Everything seemed still, peaceful, nothing out of the ordinary. Inside a Dodge Ram truck sat Hugh Rowland, one of the most well-known figures from ice road truckers. Beside him was his longtime friend and show producer Will Morrison. They were heading home from a casual outing, no tension in the air, but just minutes later, everything changed. Truck was moving fast. Morrison, behind the wheel, suddenly lost control. The vehicle veered off the road and flipped violently again and again. Metal screeched. Glass shattered. His left arm was crushed between the seat and the door, crumpled against a massive pine tree. Regained consciousness in a hospital. The damage was overwhelming. Metal, bones shattered. Internal not bleeding, wearing a seatbelt, trauma had been hurled forward. He couldn't move. His head struck the windshield. For a man who had built a life on strength and grit, lying helpless in a hospital bed was something he had never imagined. The engines were gone. The roar of the ice road silenced. In their place, hospital beeps and the shallow rhythm of a ventilator. He was no longer in control, physically or emotionally. And what hurt most? The crash wasn't caused by snowstorms or frozen lakes. It happened on a clear road under a bright sky. And the driver wasn't some reckless stranger, it was Will Morrison, his friend. But instead of an apology, there was silence. As Hugh lay in recovery, Morrison never stepped forward publicly, no statement, no support, not even a visit. Hugh was left not only with a broken body, but with a broken sense of trust. The man he had ridden with, worked with, and called a friend had destroyed his life and walked away. And while Hugh tried to come to terms with his injuries, Ice Road Truckers was preparing for another season. But the producers didn't wait. They moved on without Hugh. No farewell on air. No tribute. No explanation. Just silence. He was quietly cut out, as if he'd never been part of the show at all. To fans, the absence was jarring. To Hugh, it was devastating. His identity, once tied so deeply to the polar bear brand, was stripped away. Online forums were flooded with questions: where's Hugh? Why did he leave? Speculation ran wild. Some said he was too stubborn. Others guessed it was an old injury. But the truth never came from the network. Hugh had become a ghost. Then, in December 2014, the silence was broken, not with words, but with a lawsuit. Hugh filed a case against History Channel and Original Productions, claiming they bore responsibility for the crash. The most explosive part? He accused Morrison of driving while impaired. "I smelled alcohol," Hugh said in court. I begged him to stop, but he didn't. It wasn't just a legal battle, it was a declaration of betrayal. Hugh wasn't just asking for money. He was demanding acknowledgement. Compensation for the medical costs, yes, but also for the career he lost, the marriage that suffered, and the identity that was taken from him. His wife Diane issued a heartbreaking statement: he's not the same man anymore. He's lost the joy, the love, everything that made him who he was. The case dragged on for over 2 years. Discovery and Original Productions argued that the accident happened off-duty, beyond their control. But Hugh fought back. They left me when I needed them the most, he said in a quiet interview. On March 20, 2016, the case was settled privately. The amount was never made public. But money couldn't restore what Hugh had lost. In the aftermath, new rumors swirled. Some insiders claimed Hugh was written out on purpose. He was too hard to manage, one source reportedly told Looper. After the crash, they used it as a clean break. That theory only fueled fan outrage. They turned their backs on the man who built the show, one comment read. But critics pushed back. He sued his own team. He ruined his image for a payout, claimed another post. The debate never truly ended. Through it all, Hugh remained quiet. No TV interviews. No social media outbursts. Just silence. Behind the scenes, his world had crumbled. Once a symbol of resilience, Hugh Rowland now found himself in a private world of pain, betrayal, and isolation. He wasn't just out of work, he was unrecognizable even to himself. In a rare, quiet conversation with CBC, his voice was soft. I used to think I was unbreakable. But all it takes is 1 second, and everything you build is gone. The polar bear is gone. What's left is a man changed forever. A man still searching for peace. Still living with the weight of that day. But is this the end? Or, beneath the thick frozen silence, is there still a glimmer of light waiting to break through? There are things Hugh has never spoken of. Truths that have yet to be uncovered. And perhaps, in that quiet void, a new chapter is waiting to be written. Redemption, silence, and truth unveiled. As the spotlight faded, silence took its place. After the accident, the lawsuit, and everything fame once promised, Hugh Rowland chose to disappear. No more television appearances. No social media statements. No interviews. Those who once followed him weekly were now left with a silent name, lost among millions of unanswered search results. Hugh returned to Yellowknife, the place where it all began. A small house by the edge of the woods. No longer echoing with the roar of engines, but with the wind slipping through old wooden cracks. A man who once rode through snowstorms, who lived on the edge of life and death, now had to learn how to survive with himself. Fame, once a source of pride, had become a deep wound. Every cheer that once lifted him up had become a cold shadow he tried to escape. He chose a quiet life, far from the camera lens and the stage lights that once made his name burn bright. I didn't lose everything in the accident. I lost everything in the months that followed, when everyone turned away. Excerpt from Hugh's private journal, released by his family in 2019. Hugh's injuries were more than broken bones and damaged joints. They marked the beginning of a silent battle with depression, with a feeling of betrayal and abandonment. The man who once faced blizzards without blinking now found himself afraid of silence. The scars from the 2014 accident were not just on his body, they were etched deep into his soul. In an interview with Kona, Hugh admitted that the early days after the lawsuit were the most difficult period of his life. Diane, in a rare moment of openness with the press, said, "There are nights when Hugh just sits in the garage, staring at his old truck, and says nothing. I know he's remembering the ice roads." The drama of his years on television, the accident, and the lawsuit had taken not only Hugh's physical strength but also a part of his identity. He began therapy, not to return to television, but to learn how to forgive. To forgive an old friend. To forgive Discovery. To forgive himself for putting his trust in the wrong places. As he put it plainly, "I don't want to go back to who I was. I just want to find a different way to exist." In 2020, for the first time after nearly 6 years of absence, Hugh made a brief
The
appearance in an
1990s
interview
to haul
on a
freight
local
across
radio
British
station.
Columbia.
The booming
But his
voice
role had
was gone.
changed.
So
He
was the
stepped out of
defiant
the
grin.
driver's seat and into something
What remained
quieter,
was a deep,
something more
soft
reflective.
voice full of experience.
He began organizing
If you ask
talks
me who
with
I
young
am
people
now,
in the
I'm
far
not sure I
northern
can
regions
answer
about
that.
long-haul trucking,
But I
not
know I'm no
sugar-coated,
longer someone
but
who
more
lives to prove
unhauntingly
anything.
real.
I don't
live to
drive
reflect.
anymore.
Hugh
I let
did
the
not
kids
return
do
to
that.
television.
He told Truck News.
But he returned to life.
For him, it was the only
He founded
way
a
to make
small
his story mean
organization to
something.
support truck drivers who
Hugh
had
also
suffered.
started writing
Work-related
memoir,
accidents
but pages
didn't
of
completely
journals and
push Hugh
reflections
Rowland
about
out of the
time he lived on
transportation
the
industry
ice and the time he lived
He
after
continued
it when
to
there
run
was
Hugh
nothing
Rowland
left to
Enterprises,
lose.
a small company
This wasn't
he had
surrender.
established back in.
It was a meaningful shift. In 2022, during a rare podcast appearance, the host asked him directly, "So in the end, why did you disappear? Was it the accident, the betrayal, or something else?" Hugh paused for a long moment, then he answered. "Without tragedy. Without blame. I didn't disappear. I just chose not to stay in a world that no longer felt like mine." He admitted that after the accident, Discovery had offered some financial support, but what made him walk away was the indifference. No one came to the hospital. No one asked if he was okay. Everything was just contracts, clauses, and fine print. "I didn't leave Ice Road Truckers," he said. "They left me first." In a lengthy interview with Castanet, Hugh finally revealed the real reason he left Ice Road Truckers. "I wasn't fired. And I didn't quit because of my health," he said. "I walked away because I was tired of the drama on TV, the staged arguments, the pressure from producers to yell or do something crazy on camera, and being pushed into situations that were more dangerous than necessary just to boost ratings. I wanted my own life back." He denied the rumors that the 2014 lawsuit was the main reason, calling it the last straw after years of mounting tension. "They wanted me to be a character. I just wanted to be Hugh Rowland," he said, his tone both firm and bitter. This confession finally shed light on a mystery that had lingered for nearly a decade. Hugh didn't leave because he was forced out. Nor because his body had given up. He left because he no longer recognized himself in the very world he had helped build. Hugh didn't die in an accident. He didn't go bankrupt. He didn't spiral into crime or drugs, as so many rumors suggested. He lived. And he changed. The crash shattered his body, but it didn't kill the man within. Hugh Rowland is no longer the legendary polar bear. But he is a living symbol, for those who have lost everything and still choose to keep going. No spotlight. No stage. No audience. Just a man walking out of the ice, carrying truth and forgiveness. Share your thoughts down in comments and do subscribe our channel.